Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. It's the 2023 Tier 3 8-year anniversary Selector. And there are now 25, that's right, 25 options for you to choose from. So it's going to be a doozy. We got to go through this really quickly. I don't want this video to be like 20 minutes. So let's get it popping. There's a lot of things to consider. So we're going to be talking about it. We're just going to jump into it right away. So we have the 6 categories here. We have not good, pretty self-explanatory. Support, self-explanatory. Good, very good, again, self-explanatory. Future value. This is mainly tied to updates that we know are coming via MCU content. So if you are, if you have most of these characters tier 3 already and you're looking for some future value, look to these characters and sort of build them now for free so that you can then reap the rewards and the benefit in the future. And then the last category is tier 4. Now, I know how weird it is to put a category called tier 4 in a video about a tier 3 selector. So I'm going to you have to watch the whole video. Watch time is great, but also because I'm going to be ranking them 2 ways. I'm going to be ranking them not considering their tier 4, but acknowledging their tier 4, and then considering their tier 4 if you were to tier 4 them, if that makes sense, okay? And it will make sense soon as we get through everything else here. So let's start with the not goods. For one reason or another, mainly because these characters just have not gotten uniforms lately. We're talking the last year to 2. They are just not good. Funny enough, a lot of these characters also don't have healing or have a very bad, very low percentage heal. So yeah, Ghost Rider at the front of the list, the best of the worst, basically. And then Black Panther, unfortunately, and Winter Soldier, the Vibranium Bros, rounding out the end there. These characters should only be chosen if you have literally everyone else from above. Like, there isn't even MCU content that's going to be introducing or featuring these characters for the foreseeable future. Like, there will be eventually, but we're going to get another tier 3 selector before that content comes around, right? It's not like sure, Vision will eventually show up, etc., but not in the next 8 months or so. Unfortunately, we didn't get anything for Black Panther, even though we got Wakanda Forever. So it just, yeah, it's you kind of got to take the lumps there. For supports, we're only going to be putting the major supports. There are some other supports. I recognize there are, some of these characters do have some support abilities, but we're going to be just focusing on the ones that you will use for support. Taskmaster, by far the best. Insane value because he gives damage to all allies, whether you're attacking heroes or villains. Hela, mostly used for PvP nowadays, kind of always was. Cyclops honestly might be better than Hela because he also has a leadership. She has leadership, but it's just less flexible. And then War Machine with all of those buffs for machine allies, by far the most niche. Again, you should only be choosing characters from this list. Well, that's not true. You should only be choosing Hela and maybe War Machine if you have the majority of characters here. But honestly, you could prioritize Taskmaster, not as your first or second tier 3, but if you already have 5 to 10 tier 3s, he's a great option because you can take him into all that content, World Boss Legend, Doramu, and you just need to pick up the uniform to make him function as a support. So there's that. Then we go into the good category. We have Captain Falcon. These characters are just good, but they don't have tier 4 yet, and they have older uniforms. So yeah, but they don't struggle as much as the characters in the not good category, and so they can still put in some work, but they're obviously going to be overshadowed by tier 4s and the like. For these characters, you got to be a little careful because honestly, a support like Taskmaster or Cyclops could definitely bring a lot more to your roster than just having an extra DPS. Again, I would only consider the characters in the good category if you literally have all or most of the characters in the tier 4 category, and I'll differentiate between what it means between all and most. And then we come to future value. So this is an interesting one. I wanted to include it because of a character like Captain Marvel. She's bad right now. I was going to originally put her in the support category because she is used as a leadership, as a cancel for ABL, and as a team-up bonus for Phi-Level with Captain Marvel and Scarlet Witch. So I was originally going to put her here in support, or just put her in not good, because she's not good. But she does have future value. We saw the trailer. We know the movie's coming out this year, and we also know she's going to be getting a tier 4 for that, pretty much guaranteed. So Because of that, I had to put her in future value. You can go ahead and, like cheeky, you can put Sharon Rogers there. Yeah. Sharon Rogers probably would have been in the very good category or at the top of the good category otherwise. But yeah, I'm making this a couple of days before she gets her tier 4. So this is a huge, huge indication of future value. Another interesting one that you could argue deserves to be in future value is Loki. Now, I was going to put him in very good, but I decided to put him in, I decided it makes more sense to put him in future value because of the fact that we know Loki Season 2, right? And we already saw him at the end of Ant-Man Quantumania with Mobius looking at a variant of Kang. So we know this is coming. Whenever it happens, it'll drop with a tier 4. He'll be a god. You know, we're just going to be laughing to the bank. So that's basically it. As you can see here, I've basically separated, filtered out all of the non-tier 4 tier 3s that you can select. Everybody left is a tier 4able, and we also have not one but 2 seasonal uniforms in both Storm and Black Bolt. So that also takes, you know, that has to be taken into consideration. Just a standard PSA. I maybe should have said this at the beginning of the video, but it's quite obvious at this point with these sort of rankings. These rankings are based on the newest uniform that the character is using. So I'm not saying that Loki is good if you have Lady Loki. I'm not saying Ghost Rider is good if you have like the 70s uniform. He's not good, but you can't get what I'm saying, right? Rogue does not deserve to be here if you don't have a uniform for her. As always with these rankings, it only it matters that they're using their newest uniform. So obviously, if you don't have Black Bolt's newest uniform, if you don't have Storm's newest uniform, Storm is a support. Straight up, that's all she is. If you don't have Storm's newest uniform and you tier 3 her, that's all she's good for, is support. And if you don't have Black Bolt's newest uniform and you tier 3 him, he's not good. He's not good. He becomes good if you tier 4 him and you have a lot of Pierce and you give him a Rage. He can do some content, but he's still not good. He's probably there, honestly, at tier 4 with his old uniforms. I wasn't going to include them as separate icons just because it would get too confusing, but I just wanted to make that differentiation and explain that now because I know some people are going to have that question. So now we come to the last 2 categories here, tier 4 and very good. Notice we have all the tier 4s available. Now I'm going to rank them without their tier 4. Okay, I know this says tier 4, but we'll quickly just change this to best. Okay, so if you're only going to tier 3 these characters, you're going to buy their newest uniform, whatever, but you're only going to tier 3 them, right? You're only going to tier 3 them. This is where we're going to do the first bit of ranking before we then consider them at tier 4. Because frankly, a lot of these characters get really good at tier 4, but some of them don't, right? Like, for example, Venom is a lot better if you force all of these characters down to tier 3. He's a lot better. Conversely, Spider-Man's a lot worse. Not in the sense of, you know, like, you'll see when we do the tier 4 ranking, but basically, this is what you need to understand when we're just talking about tier 3s and we're not considering their value at tier 4, right? Like, Ant-Man has a ton of value at tier 3. He hits super hard. Same with Captain America. He might actually be here, you know, but again, these characters, then their value fluctuates at tier 4. Black Widow, not very good as a tier 3, straight up. If you're just going to tier 3 her and leave her there, you're better off using the Selector on somebody else. She's probably the worst tier 3 that can go to tier 4 of this list here. Thor is good. I think he's a little bit overrated. He definitely needs the tier 4 to do really well. The thing that you're going to see that's interesting, combat types are very good. Combat types are very good at tier 3. Do you know why? They have very high base stats. Very high attack, very high HP, very high defensive stats. Very, very high. So they don't seem to gain as much from tier 4 because they're already so good at tier 3, right? That's kind of how it goes. Black Bolt's an interesting one. If you have his uniform, of course, he's probably the best tier 3. He just hits so hard. You know, being able to solo Dormammu or being able to do Dormammu with no Pierce is insane. Like that, there's just no way to deny that value, right? That's just the way it is. Storm is actually really good. She's just squishy, so it's a bit of a, yeah. She hits really hard. She hits really hard. She's just squishy, so it really depends. I would put her here. If you prefer the damage over the tankiness, then I would put her here. If you prefer the tankiness over the damage, I would put her here. I prefer consistency. And I know people's movement speed, yada yada. I mean, they buffed it, but still. And then Iron Man, I think Iron Man is good, but at tier 3, but I think he definitely needs the tier 4. I think he struggles a bit to get things done at tier 3. Hulk might actually be even better. I might be undervaluing Hulk a little bit here at tier 3. But I think this is a pretty good ranking. But yeah, this is what it looks like at tier 3. Okay, so I'm only ranking them at tier 3. Again, this is if you're not going to tier 4 them. Obviously, I don't think this is the way we should do it, but I wanted to do this way and then do it the way that I would normally do it, which is rank them with tier 4 considered. Because I know some people, they're not looking ahead to tier 4 just yet, and they want to know how good these characters are just at the baseline of tier 3. Now, of course, if you don't have Black Bolt's uniform, he's gone. If you don't have Storm's uniform, she's gone. So that's what the list looks like without Storm and without Black Bolt's seasonal uniforms. Because again, I know that some people don't have those seasonal uniforms. Now what I want to do is I want to change this to tier 4. And I want to re-rank these based on... I can't take them off the list anymore? Okay, cool. I want to re-rank these characters based on their ability to go to tier 4 and how that impacts their value, essentially. So I think Iron Man is one of the best once you can get him to tier 4, especially with how flexible his uniforms are, giving you both a blast hero and a blast villain. Iron Man, or Thor, like Iron Man, also I think is really, really good at tier 4, and he's one of the best farming characters, and he's also one of the most accessible because the other competitive farming characters like Magneto, Jean Grey, and Professor X, they're really hard to get. They're really hard to get straight up. So Thor still has a lot of value there at tier 4. Next up, we have Black Bolt. Again, this is only if you have his newest uniform. If you don't have his newest uniform, then it just doesn't matter. After Black Bolt, I would probably put Storm. Really, really good tier 4, huge damage and better survivability now because of the movement speed buff. After Storm, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, you could put everybody else down here. You could. And I'm saying that not because I dislike these characters or I want to talk smack about these characters, but essentially what happens for all of these characters is one of the following. They're either characters that don't impact the meta at a high level except for PvP. So in Ant-Man's case, speed heroes, right? In Spider-Man's case, speed heroes, male, they just don't impact the meta. Spider-Man does for PvP, but not quite enough for it to matter that much. Same thing goes with Hulk, doesn't impact the PvP meta enough, especially, Gore and Jean Grey kind of just dominating everything. So these three boys kind of suffer a little bit. Captain America is the jack of all trades, master of none for tier 4s. So if you're looking for the most balanced tier 4, he's number 1. He's number 1. But he's just not the best at anything. Like, he can be good for PvP, but he's not better than Hulk or Spider-Man. He can be really good for PvE, but he's not better than some other combat tier 4s that we have. I mean, he might be the best combat tier 4 on this list for PvE. So that's something to consider. Maybe put him a little bit ahead of Hulk because his tier 3 just hits insanely hard. But yeah, Venom, sort of same thing as Captain America here with less PvP value, I would say. And then Black Widow is probably one of the weakest tier 4s. She's being held up right now by her value for ABX and ABL. But I tell you what, once we get a new speed female tier 4, Black Widow's value is going to drop so insanely fast. She's not good for anything else. It's just ABX and ABL that's holding her value. And I have to say, I'm very nervous about putting her higher anywhere on the list because with Sharon Rogers getting a tier 4, the chance of Luna getting a tier 4 is very high. We haven't seen anything yet, but it's never happened before, right? It's never happened before that Sharon got a uniform without Luna, except for when Sharon was in the game before Luna. But ever since they came to the game, ever since they were both in the game, they've gotten their tier 3 at the same time, and they got uniforms at the same time. So it's always been at the same time. So I don't want to bet against that. So that's why I got to put her at the end here. But I think this is how the ranking goes if you level them all up to tier 4 and then you look at their value and you consider them as such. Now, of course, if you're leaning towards PvP, if you're a PvP player, then the list absolutely changes, right? The list changes. I would say the list looks something like this if you're very into PvP. Again, considering them at tier 4. However, I know most players are not into PvP, so that's why I wanted to put that out there. But yeah, that would sort of be my ultimate ranking based on the tier 3 selector, based on having all the uniforms, and then being able to push those characters to their tier 4 limit. So, with that being said, hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know who you're going to choose for your tier 3 selector. Good luck. It's just a few days or a week and a half away. Thank you so much for watching. Smash the like button, share the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.